Ruffs is one of the most interesting yet underappreciated brawlers in the game. So underappreciated that he was the very inspiration behind the Why No One Plays series, made nearly 2 years ago. Now, we finally got into his PowerPoint and things have changed a bit. Ruffs is now a bit of a different brawler from that time, yet unfortunately his play rates still suffer. As for the video, we'll take a look into how Ruffs has gotten into the near top of meta, with his increased abilities in both support and offense. If you want a fun place to talk about Brawl Stars, join our Discord server, link will be in the description. Also, make sure to subscribe to keep up with the PowerPoints, and finally, if you want to help support the channel, become a member. You also get to choose new PowerPoint brawlers and help me out, as my members chose Ruffs. Also, if you like the music in the video, it's all made by me, so check out my music channel if you're curious for more. Starting out with the important stats, his health is a pretty measly 6,000. His main attack sees him shoot 2 lasers, with each dealing 1200 damage at a 9 top range. These lasers can also bounce off of walls, like Rico's main attack. The attack has a reload speed of 1.4 seconds, which is fast, and a projectile speed of 3800. Ruffs' super sees him drop a supply drop that leaves a power up for him or his teammates, dealing 2000 damage to enemies, while also boosting 700 health and 20% damage for whoever picks it up. Now that we got the basics out of the way, let's start talking about Ruffs. The stereotypical view of Ruffs is that he's a generalist support brawler. He's pretty weak by himself, needs his teammates to support him, and he needs to support his teammates. Overall, he's a pretty mid brawler, not fun at all to play, which reflects in his play rates. Well, maybe that was true at one point of time, but not anymore. Let's introduce you to the new and improved Ruffs. First of all, it's important to recognize that Ruffs is now a serious threat with damage, even to the point where he could be considered a damage dealer in certain scenarios. But what could have possibly changed for Ruffs to get to this point from being the Generalist Supreme? Well, let's go back to Ruffs' release. He was actually kinda crazy on release, and it was mainly due to one thing, his unload speed. He could literally murk you in a few seconds, and there was nothing you could do about it. Of course, this got nerfed, and well, he never returned to being as much of a threat on offense. However, this began to change with the release of his Hypercharge. First of all, it's important to understand that Ruffs always had the potential to deal solid damage. His super obviously gave him a buff, but the combo of his super, and especially air superiority star power, could pack a punch against enemies. Add in the damage gear, and he could deal nasty amounts of damage. However, this was a lot of stuff, and most of the time, it was just easier to give your teammates a super boost and they would be able to get more value out of it. But then, his Hypercharge came, and suddenly made things a bit more interesting. His Hypercharge sees him be the goodest boy, with Ruffs' super dealing 25% more damage on impact, as well as charging the Hypercharge of whoever picks it up. This, on release, was crazy. It released at the peak of the Hypercharge craze, with broken Hypercharge after broken Hypercharge running around, so you can see why this was so good. Yet, despite Brawl Stars nerfing Hypercharges left and right, Ruffs' Hypercharge never actually got nerfed. Why? Well, first of all, it's Ruffs. Brawl Stars nerfing Ruffs would be like kicking someone while they're down. His play rates are so low that the moment he gets any type of nerf, he will literally never be played by anyone ever again. That's also another reason why he's so consistent in the meta. The second reason is that nerfing other Hypercharges was basically a proxy nerf to him. His Hypercharge partly depended on the strength of other Hypercharges. Basically, how much value would the brawler get from getting their Hypercharge immediately? If the Hypercharge was nerfed, the value would, of course, be less. These two reasons were why Ruffs' Hypercharge wasn't nerfed, and even to this day is still an A or S tier Hypercharge. Now, let's talk about what the Hypercharge did for his damage. First of all, his super. His super was always an interesting topic. It's usually frowned upon to use against enemies, but there's a bit of strategy to it. His worst matchup is definitely against aggro brawlers, and his super has pushback, so it can be very useful to have your super on standby to use it as defense. Add in the air superiority star power and the Hypercharge buffs, and suddenly you're looking at a pretty insane amount of damage. With no buffs, hitting your super can deal over 4,000 damage. Not such a joke anymore, is he? Add in super buffs and damage gear, and this number can quickly balloon up, basically erasing the aggro brawlers he was once countered by. While he has definitely evolved to a much more damage dealing classification, let's not understate how much of a support he now is, especially taking into consideration his Hypercharge. Being able to charge another brawler's Hypercharge is absolutely insane if you think about it. Getting the strongest ability in the game immediately, especially for someone who can team wipe with it, utterly broken. Now, let's talk about the final reason why Ruffs has become the damage dealing supporter he is now. On November 9th, 2025, Ruffs got a big projectile speed buff from 3500 to 3800. He found it a bit difficult to consistently hit shots before, especially the full 2800. Now, it was easier to actually hit enemies, which, leads to more damage. Finally, let's talk about his interesting matchups. First of all, I touched on this a bit earlier, but his matchup against aggro brawlers. This used to be much worse, and you can definitely bully most Ruffs with the right matchups. However, this is no longer as much the case. As I've been talking about this entire video, his damage is so much better now. But most importantly, his Hyper Super allows him to take care of anyone who gets too close, though it's still a sore spot for him when it comes to his matchups. His most contradictory matchup has to be against throwers. He literally can't do anything against them until he can get his super. Once he gets his super though, he can start breaking walls with his air superiority star power. So it's a bit of a struggle at the beginning of every game, but as long as you consistently get your super, you can easily turn the tide. Or you can go the easy route and use his air support gadget to create pressure on the thrower to punish. You might ask, how will this affect his bouncing mechanic with the breaking of walls when it comes to a super? Well, to be honest, it's mostly a nice bonus for Russ when it comes to his bouncing mechanic. He doesn't really rely on it basically at all, and definitely nowhere near to the extent which Rico does. His most interesting matchup has to be against Marksman. First of all, in walled maps. Obviously, with his ability to bounce off of walls, lets him compete in range with the Marksman, so he can pretty reliably beat them. On open maps, however, it's much more interesting. Regularly, Marksman will absolutely destroy Ruffs, but Ruffs has a secret weapon. Meet Take Cover. This sees Ruffs create 3 sandbags that have 40% of Ruffs' main max health. This is honestly one of the most useful gadgets in the game, and especially for his Marksman matchup. Typical Marksman cannot shoot through walls, let alone 3. So, Ruffs can use this cover to push up, force out enemy ammo, and push enemies back, and overall just cook up. Furthermore, with the gadget rework, he can use it much more often, making his matchup even better. Overall, what I like best about Ruffs is that he isn't just a heal bot like some other supports. He actually supports in different ways, with damage buffs, overall health buffs, and of course, a free Hypercharge, which I think is a really cool and a unique idea. And nowadays, he's become an absolute weapon by himself, being a staple of the A tier, and it's just a matter of time before we see him in the S tier. Thanks to Newglance and Hank equals no skill for helping out on the video, and as always, thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or join the Discord server.